All right, well, let's start this thing. We got time to do it? Okay. Okay. All right, good afternoon. Let's call this meeting on equity, diversity, and inclusion to order. Let the record reflect that Council Member Spatafor is present and Councilwoman Carter is very close to here, so we'll count that as present. She let us know she was on the highway. Looking for a motion for the September 10th minutes.
I'd move the minutes as presented.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, so we have basically one topic today, and on the agenda, it's listed as a discussion topic, LGBTQ plus safety measures. As you all may be aware, a lot of people came in to the city council meeting on Monday to express their concerns and with the safety of the trans community. My understanding is that there has been a few incidents, most notably and recently at the Avenue, and other incidents. I heard you all, and we set this discussion meeting up. Originally, we had the police invited as well as the mayor's office. We do have Mark Lawrence from the mayor's office. And we have Matt from the city attorney's office. I'm Brian Jackson, city council person.
Peter Spatafor, Lansing City Council.
And that's Sherry Boak, our office manager. So we could do this a few ways. One is we could have our standard public comment time where people come up at the beginning to speak. And I'm inclined to go that way since we do have a large crowd here. But at the same time, I don't think that like me and as a council person right now has a lot to just add. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. We disinvited the police based on public input that I heard through email, and there's no problem with that. We can talk about that a little bit later too. So I guess I'll start this off with, if it's okay with you all, with public comment. We've have people sign up. I see people are still signing up. I don't want anybody that wanted to say something not be able to. I would like us to try to keep it for the most part on the topic here. And we'll see how we go. So I guess since there's so many people and I don't know how many people are going to speak, we'll start with 3 minutes. And then after everybody goes, maybe the committee could share some words or some thoughts, and then also maybe re-engage again based on, what we hear. Some things that I'm not saying that I'm looking for anything or we're looking for anything, but definitely want us to provide a forum for people's voices and concerns to be heard. And one thing, as you all speak, one thing that I was wondering is, the police the police part of this, because right now, as you all know, standard Lansing and around everywhere else is pretty much that the police is the force that does the investigating of crimes and does their reporting and sends that, for example, if there was a crime, to the prosecutor's office, and it's only the prosecutor's office who reads everything and decides what, if any, criminal charges are brought. So without the investigative agency, whichever police department it is, Lansing, Michigan State, wherever it is, without that report and request, there are no criminal or court proceedings from there. So I kind of am interested to hear like other ideas. I did read a few, but this is a discussion where we want to hear from you. So I'll just start with this first sheet. It might not be the order of which the first person signed up, but Chantel Spears, if you would. Oh, yep, I do see that. There's some people that said support and some people that say speaking. So let me get that together here. Let's start with, it looks like AJ.
Hi there. I'm AJ Schicht. I have been living in the greater Lansing area for closer to 5 years now. And today, obviously, we have a lot of action items that we would like to get through. But one specific request that I would like to highlight here, as you'll hear lots of personal testimonies from my trans siblings, is I would like to request to see what the possibilities are that we could designate Lansing as a LGBTQ sanctuary city. This would be following various other sanctuary city models as proposed by Boston, Massachusetts, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Pittsfield, Massachusetts, Chicago, Illinois, and many others. This would essentially provide queer people within the greater Lansing area with a commitment to understand that the city of Lansing is dedicated to protecting our legal rights, access to healthcare, and other rights. A lot of my colleagues will kind of get into that further part regarding increased policing, but I am curious to see what kind of collaboration would be required from the greater community in order to start workshopping out an idea similar to that. As for specifics, we could look towards Iowa City, who most recently established themselves as a LGBTQ sanctuary city. And they particularly work with the city's attorney office. So I would be inclined to maybe ask some more questions at a later date, but that's pretty much what I wanted to say at first. But yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. So I'm not exactly clear if people are going to speak or not, but because it doesn't say on any of these people on this sheet. So Connie? Sure. Okay. Again, I don't, it is public comment sign-in sheet, so I don't want to skip anybody. Okay. Let's just do it like this. If anybody wants to speak, you can raise your hand, come down, and you can identify yourself or not, and then you can take your at least 3 minutes to start with and make a comment. So does anybody want to go second? All right, come on down.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Morgan Doherty, they, them, theirs pronouns. I'm a trans person who's lived in Lansing for the past 40 years. Under the city's leadership, trans people in Lansing not only have to fear street harassment and threats of violence, we also face a reduced social safety net, while oppression leaves us less likely to have safe housing, medical care, or jobs. Our local homeless shelters have proved to be unwelcoming and unsafe for trans people in the city. And the encampments where many unhoused trans people in Lansing stay are under constant threat from city-enforced destruction. Our neighbors have nowhere to go. Some days I am scared of bigots attacking queer local businesses or threatening trans neighbors who patronize those businesses, but every day I'm far more fearful of what will happen when I or my neighbors lose our jobs, our healthcare, or our homes. And should that happen, I'm not in fear of random isolated bigots. I'm afraid of social service institutions, the police, and other forms of violence that are perpetrated by our city, our state, and our federal governments. A step toward actual safety among Lansing's trans community would be the city providing material support to A Place for Us, which is an organization fundraising to open an LGBTQ plus affirming homeless shelter in Lansing. I'm not affiliated with A Place for Us, but I feel confident that providing city resources to actual trans people and trans-led organizations is the most effective and just way of protecting trans lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morgan, that was called A Place for Us. Thank you.
And again, we're just kind of informally recognizing people to come speak because the sign-in sheet has some people that's for support, some people that want to speak, and some people that's here for neighborhood matters.
I just want to know some basics. I've lived on, my name is Billy Piaz. I live at 613 North Fairview, and I've lived there for 32 years. And I've seen some of my neighbors have been, I'm a lesbian, and some of my lesbian neighbors have been threatened by someone in the neighborhood. Some people have been able to identify this person, not by name, but by what this person looks like. And I have no idea what's happening with this person, whether he is maybe one of the people that's been harassing and threatening the trans people at the Avenue 2. I don't know, but I don't know the basics even of how to find out any of these questions. Who is this person? And is he free to just wander around and tell people that he's going to kill them? I would like to know some basics like that where I could find out that information because it is kind of scary. One of my neighbors said 2 lesbian women actually sold their home and left the neighborhood because they were not able to get the police help in restraining a man who was threatening them frequently. And that was a few years ago. So I just want to know some basics of how we are to operate to know who is who and what's been going on with them. Because maybe it's, maybe it's also at the Avenue.
Thank you.
One. Hi, my name is Lindsay Ross. I spoke here last time on Monday. I come here as a member of the Lansing Advocates for Trans Safety, which is a new support group that we've created. You'll hear from a few of us tonight. We've got about 20 people right now. Basically, I'll summarize my speech from last week pretty shortly. We need this city to be safe for queer people. What happened at the Avenue a few weeks ago is unacceptable. What happened to Strange Matter and to Ruby's Paradise Salon and many other queer businesses in the area last November is unacceptable. We cannot have people with guns going around and not a whole lot to do with it. I also want to say I respect you all for coming down here to speak with us. So anyway, I have 3 things that I think that the city could do within their power to make a difference in this regard. 1, I think it's important that the city condemn the recent threat that's been happening and what happened last November and reaffirm that the city is safe for queer people to be. I also second AJ's motion to look into Lansing as a sanctuary city. With trans people leaving other states for Michigan, I know a lot of people that have come here to Lansing. I think it's important to show that, hey, if Lansing is a sanctuary city, you can come here. This is a safe place. We will protect you. Second, I also want to call for a LGBTQ exclusive board. Separate from the DEI board. I think it's important to have an accountability in government in this regard and also having ability to have a 2-way conversation between the government and its residents specifically in this regard. The final thing that I wanted to talk about is I think it would be awesome if we were able to request funding to queer businesses and potentially queer people as well. I know that Strange Matter had to pay over $6,000 for their tinted windows to protect their customers last November. We don't have a confirmed number on this yet, but I know the Avenue has spent well over $1,000 right now. Correct me if I'm wrong on this though. But it's a lot of money, And I know that there have been concerns about why were the police uninvited? You know, the police keep us safe. The police are the ones that do the investigations. And it's true, the police do the investigations. My concern is not on this one person in general, but more of a long-term thing. You know, I was at the Avenue Saturday and there were multiple security guards around the area. They wand now, they have a metal detector, the little scanner. So, you know, I think it's cool if we can keep those places where queer people go secure. That's a very good step. So again, I hope you'll take these three things into account.
Hello, I'm Estrella Ellsworth. I'm from Flint. I've lived in Lansing for about a year now. My pronouns are she, her. And I didn't prepare statements, so I'll try to keep it brief, but I just wanted to like kind of echo the concern about the incident last November with Strange Matter. At the time I worked at the Quality Dairy in Michigan and Foster. I feel like I only didn't get targeted myself because we had that big parking lot, keeping the cameras away from the windows. Because remember, people were, filming into businesses during business, and claiming to be First Amendment advocates. And my concern with the situation is when I kind of bring up that this was a queer targeted event, people don't really seem aware of that, or that it was just that businesses got targeted. And I think that one major area that the city could help would be to make a statement and to condemn this sort of behavior, because I feel like that would really highlight that these are acts of hate and not random acts of, violence and intimidation. And I also want to echo that I think that working with some of these like businesses in the community is a great way for the city to get involved, because these businesses are sort of where we go to feel safe. And just kind of, like making that connection there and working there, I think would go a long way toward helping people to feel safe. And like I said, I didn't prepare any statements, so I won't take up any more time, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Sorry, I know you guys aren't used to just pointing out in the thing. We usually have it more formal, but again, it's just whoever wants to speak is going to get a chance.
Hi, name is Arena Michaels. I used to be an intern for Chris Swope for the clerk's office, formerly known as Ross Michaels. I used to take the minutes or help take the minutes, and there very few weeks that went by where like a shooting didn't happen, where council members had to give their condolences. I used to write down such and such gives their condolence to this case and all that. It almost was a weekly basis. It was the worst part of my internship. Everything else about that internship was great, but that was the worst part of it. And any type of prevention of gun violence, especially towards a targeted community currently with this political violence, I think should be seen as a win for Lansing. So I just want to put that in perspective. And I would hate to have more interns that have to like constantly go through that, writing down like, this family was killed because of that, or, I'm afraid that like one day we'll see something much worse, and the community would have to deal with that. So I think any steps we can do to prevent those types of situations is a win for Lansing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Livy Quates. Firstly, I just want to thank you guys for having this meeting. I appreciate that you are willing to listen to us. I just want to echo kind of the points that have already been brought up, sort of what we're calling for, and maybe provide a little more information about them. So the first thing is that we want a statement from the city regarding the preservation of LGBTQ safety and expression. I think this is like the least that the city could do, to just reaffirm that the city takes matters of safety for its queer residents seriously, especially in the current times that we live in. Secondly, I do think that a board for LGBTQ voices is a good start, a good measure, and perhaps this board can discuss the steps that it would take to turn Lansing into a queer sanctuary city. And then thirdly, regarding the police, I know some of you may be confused as why we don't want necessarily the police here or have a little bit of a concern around the police. And I believe that is because the police don't really serve as a preventative measure. It's more of a, a post measure. Once something happens, so they talk to the prosecutor and do investigations and such like that. And increased police presence in the queer community can feel for a lot of us like increased surveillance and make people feel less safe in general, comparatively to instead supporting the queer businesses that are actively facing this. So yeah, thank you.
I just want to apologize for stepping out. I have a family member that's in the doctor's office, and I thought that was that call, so I apologize for stepping out during your comments.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. I'm a proud member of this community. I'm also Grayson. I'm also transgender and an ICU nurse. So that means I've held hands with people taking their last breath, resuscitated strangers, cared for people's parents, children, and partners that I've never met again. Because that's what we do. We take care of each other. So I need you to understand something. If you were in that hospital bed, I would fight for you to get home to your family. I want to make sure that when I'm outside of those hospital walls, someone's fighting for me to get home to my family as well. I don't have all the answers for you, but I hope you'll listen to everyone's comments today and come up with something to keep us all safe. Thank you.
So when I go forward, we're doing it a little more orderly. I'm gonna go here and start going back. And then here and start going back minus the people who already spoke. All right.
My name is Isla Martin. I work for LAFQ Credit Union, which is a Lansing institution since about 1913, which is a company that has been very supportive of me in my transition. I was not always Isla Martin working for there. And it convinced me that Lansing was a wonderful place to be a member of the LGBT community. And given the past few months and the proceedings of that, I would like to think that I haven't been fooled. The reason that the LGBT community and the police do not mesh is a historical one. And reactive measures for this are not going to save lives. We need preventative measures. Most importantly, funding these LGBT institutions so they can provide their own security because of the clashes that the LGBT community and the police have historically had, I think would be the best way to handle this. I was not originally planning on speaking today. I am not as politically literate as my siblings here today. But I'm sorry, I'm shaking a lot up here. This is very important, and I hope you will do us justice. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Cody. Thank you for being here today. I've been in Lansing for about a year now and have felt very safe for the most part, mostly because I've seen a lot of queer folks who are out and about in town, living their lives, working at jobs throughout Lansing, and being members of the community. Something I want to reiterate about trans people and queer people more broadly is we're just people. You know, we're trying to live our lives and we're afraid. I'm very afraid about what the federal government is saying, about members of our state legislature, and knowing that you folks would have our support would mean a lot. Utilizing your existing relationships with folks at the state level as well is something that I think would be a good action for you folks to take to say, we as Lansing City Council support the trans community. We believe that they deserve access to healthcare, to housing, to employment, just like everybody else, and that other cities around Michigan, along with Lansing, could do the same to ensure sanctuary status or broader protections for the trans community. I think just standing here in support, listening is a great first step. Forming relationships with existing trans groups and continuing to foster those relationships is important. I also think that having an LGBT board like yourselves would also be helpful. Thank you for this conversation and thank you for continuing to listen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cloud Kelly, and I'm speaking as both a queer community member and somebody who was raised on the East Side and lives in Lansing now, and also as a staff member at the Avenue. I'm really speaking to the people in the audience, or I don't know the right word, but I have to keep my head turned this way because of the mic. I wanted to say that I really love the suggestions that I have heard so far tonight. I love the idea of a queer and trans advisory board. I think more queer-friendly spaces and resources are vital for the community. And I'd love to learn more about the LGBT sanctuary city, and I will be doing more research on that later. I also wanted to say that moving forward, we would really value the opportunity to connect with people from this group and from the city and from council to learn and figure out more about how we can continue to work together. We weren't involved in the planning stages of this meeting, but I'm really grateful to see the incredible turnout for an important meeting and for this ongoing conversation. I also want to remind folks that as the AV and as community members, we are also here to collaborate, alongside everybody else. We want to work together with local government and community groups, especially vulnerable people in the community, to figure out the best ways to keep our community safer moving forward. I think it's a really important time for us to all look out for each other more than ever and stay really resilient and take care of our neighbors and the people in our community. It's a really scary moment for everybody here. And like others have acknowledged, we need to keep finding ways to keep each other safe while also holding the city accountable to protecting and representing the queer community. Also, I'll be around for a little bit after the meeting if anybody wants to talk about the AV or anything else. Thank you all again for being here, and thank you to the council for holding space for this conversation.
I am Estlin. I've lived here. I've lived here a few years. Estlin, Estlin. So I've heard a lot of good things here today. I kind of wanted to elaborate on some and kind of provide, I think the real framework we're looking at right now, to be quite frank, is a very concerning trend going on in the larger societal context with fascist or white supremacist sentiment. So people said a citizen board or something is a great idea, LGBT, but I do think more broad, a citizen board should be thought about maybe to examine the budget of the city, because right now I'm seeing a lot of focus on the police force and not a lot of focus on things like new housing or social services or providing financial incentive to, like people said, queer businesses or even medical programs that help trans people access the medical help they need. Also, there are trans immigrants, and Lansing is a sanctuary city. And I think being a sanctuary city, we should really give some thought to what's going on right now. And I'd like to see the council acknowledge both the trans issues and the larger issues going on that are leading to this violence, because trans people are one of the more oppressed people in society. So they're going to be one of the first to start feeling the effects of this. And that's why we're here now. This is why this is happening to us, these dangers. I think focusing the police on the homeless is really kind of disgusting and counterintuitive to everything that the government should be doing, which is helping people. So citizen board, acknowledgement of what's going on, the medical programs, and just like really getting people involved in understanding what the city is spending its money on and why, and providing more programs to help people instead of what's going on now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mick Tatey Bowden. I use she, her pronouns. I've been living in Lansing for 4 years, and I'm also the board secretary for the Salis Center, which is Lansing's 2S LGBTQIA plus community center. I am not speaking as representative of Salis, but I wanted to stand up as a queer person in Lansing and just make sure that you all are aware that groups like the Salis Center and A Place for Us and other groups that are starting to form are providing a service for the city that the city is failing to provide for our community. We are doing this being funded by a community that is underfunded, and we are picking up where you all have dropped the ball, frankly. I answer the info email line every day, and I can tell you that our community is frightened for good reason. We are being targeted on an unprecedented level from federally to state, and we would really love to see you all. I would definitely echo Morgan's comments about providing social services and safety in terms of housing, healthcare, employment in the city. I apologize, I was not planning on speaking today. I also think that a sanctuary city movement would be really wonderful because it would show that you will not comply with calls to target the trans community. I can also tell you that we get many emails from people wanting to move to Lansing because they hear that Lansing is queer and trans friendly. And I think it's important that we honor that and we really show that that is absolutely true. Thank you.
Hey, can you hear me good? We're good. Okay. I need to get out my notes because I literally just wrote this kind of last minute. But it's okay. Ooh. Hi, I'm Cam for the record. Pronouns are they, them, and he, him. So I've been living in the greater Lansing area for over 10 years. And within that, I've also been transgender for majority of that time. I'm here to kind of echo what my peers have been saying and advocate for them that are around me. These are not just people, but good people. I'm literally going to look at the timer and I want to give you guys a second to look at the people in this room and take a deep breath. These are human people. They have pets. They have jobs. They have families. They have friends. They're the people that when you're down, they will pick you up. The transgender community within Lansing, as Lansing becomes a more safer city, with queer businesses even opening, and communities like the Salis Center existing, it really reintegrates what Lansing's history of having queer people here. It kind of like brings it back. And I just want to reiterate that trans people are the ones that are involved in the community help. Trans people are a part of the community, whether you like it or not. And, you know, these are not just people, but they're really good people and the people around me have saved my life multiple times. When I see that my fellow community members are threatened to be killed as a human response, I am here to tell you that that is bad. That's a bad thing. And I hope everyone on this panel agrees. Our livelihood and a lot of other external factors are under attack as we speak. I just ask what you would do that is fulfilling for the community around you, because we are in the community and we do exist. And that's it. I'm just gonna use the rest of my time for you to just look at the people around me. These are people. We're all human. We all breathe. All right, thank you. My name is Lyra Opalikin. I was one of the speakers at the last Monday as well for that public comment. And thank you again for just holding this initial space for discussion. I want to start this public comment by just listing the asks of the Lansing advocates for transgender safety. Just one more time. We demand the city of Lansing release a statement regarding the preservation of queer and trans safety and expression. We request funding to be allocated to queer and allied businesses who have had to spend an immense amount of their own funds on personal safety measures. And we call for the formation of an LGBTQ advisory board that can actively meet and advocate for the continued inclusion of queer voices. I want to speak on this last point a little bit by just first pointing out how stagnant a traditional public comment format is. When we sit here telling our stories, advocating for change, making our asks, we are not having the most productive conversation that we could be having. You all sit behind that wooden barrier right there and listen as we sit in the audience and speak. But what we need is an audience for all of us, city council, or space for all of us, city council and constituents to sit at one table where our voices have equal weight in a less formal format. In a public comment setting, you can't properly give feedback on what we ask. We can't work with you to collaboratively develop solutions. And ultimately, this system lacks some transparency as we have no clue how you are praising our asks or what you are considering to do in response to our asks until later on a preset agenda or in a follow-up city council meeting. And by that point, we will not have been given the proper space or platform to hold the discussion, and who knows what could have happened at that point considering the rate of violence in this country. An LGBTQ plus commission is one answer to such an ask, but it is a longer term answer. I would like to see some greater action now and some urgency, and I am just not seeing that. Holding more public comments are just prolonging a game of telephone that has an even greater risk of leading to more fear and violence if a stronger stance isn't taken. Following this forum, I want to see an active effort made on your end to engage directly with your constituents and have an open and collaborative conversation. When Cam asked you to look to the audience, don't just try to look, but to try to see us and acknowledge our existence and think about how you can actually serve your queer and trans constituents. All of you should be looking when Cam asked you to look. Reach out to your businesses that have had to spend an extreme amount of funds on safety to determine how best you can cover those expenses and keep your constituents and businesses safe. Invest more in social services that give back to the LGBTQ plus community. Make a statement and follow through on the statement, getting something specific on the calendar that doesn't just repurpose an existing equity, diversity, and inclusion committee meeting. Making Lansing safer for its queer and trans constituents will take work, and it will take time. That's why we want to meet you at the same table and create an LGBTQ plus board and have these conversations face to face. This, alongside our other asks, is a good step in taking preventative measures that do not involve policing and will, at the least, increase public confidence in your ability to keep this city safe. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. I'm Florence, she, her pronouns. So I want to start this off by putting forward that while I appreciate the focus on wanting to prosecute, I feel that focusing on hunting down this one individual is the wrong way forward. As was asked at the beginning of this meeting, we actually have taken the initiative and had put forward the 3 separate items that are outside of police influence. Those being a demand for a statement regarding LGBT safety, a board to bring more of these voices to light, and financial support. Our group, the Lansing Advocates for Trans Safety, had been obtaining information surrounding the financial hits that Strange Matter and the AV had already taken. A GoFundMe put forward by Strange Matter stated that they have been quoted that their blackout windows were quoted at over $6,000. More than $1,000 was to be spent on hooking up security without the labor costs included within that figure. I've seen that the metal detectors used here are actually of the same brand that the Avenue had invested in. Their safety measures are still ongoing, but they have stated that the price so far is upwards of a couple $1,000s, and that price is reportedly currently rising. I want to put forward that the speed of having these conversations is paramount, as today is the day that this threat of returning to the Avenue was slated to come to fruition. Police statement is appreciated, though I want to make it clear that this isn't an isolated event. A manhunt feels performative and doesn't work to help our cause of attempting to stop lives from being taken. Our lives. We need these businesses and spaces to have the tools to prevent future instances of terror as opposed to a hindsight-focused methodology. I want to call for more in-depth conversations with these spaces so we can understand the exact security measures that we can take together. I am, however, thankful that this meeting was held and look forward to working with all of you further. I will, however, reiterate, the threat was slated for tonight. Please do not allow this push for trans protection to be slowed down or lost into bureaucracy. Thank you.
My name is Murr, for the record, Myrrh. I'm a recent transplant to Lansing. Pun wasn't intended, but like of a month ago, and I've loved it here. I came from Texas. I lived there 30 years. I've been through some very bad things. And I feel safer here. I love it here. There's community, there's beautiful people. And I just wanted to add my voice to it that like, don't just let it feel safer, make it actually safe. Make a statement so that like I live with a friend group who has slowly migrated people from across the country in terrible situations here. Like, let's build it a community and not just be reactive and use the police, but proactive and allow people to empower themselves. That's really all we can want. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Issa Worth. My pronouns are she, they. I am an incoming student at MSU and am a newer resident to the area. Part of the reason that I had moved up to the area and what made my decision to move up here was because of the LGBTQ community and how welcoming it was with places such as The Avenue and Strange Matter. And having moving up from a smaller town where gender identity and queer expression is generally discouraged, I feel that Lansing, being a capital city, has the opportunity to take a stand and make those LGBT youth who do come here to learn about their identity, like every college student should. Sorry, I just wrote those last minute, so I lost my place. But like every college student should, and with an out and expressive form of solidarity from the city, we are not only driving away prospective students and residents, but also making the ones that are here feel unsafe and wary of themselves, especially when lives are being threatened. And the person that was posing threats that night at the Avenue is unfortunately not the sole threat of our community's safety. There's many cities that Lansing can use to model off for an LGBTQ plus century city, such as San Francisco, Sacramento, West Hollywood, Long Beach, and Los Angeles, Kansas City, Austin, and Lake Worth. That's all I had to say. So thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Crystal Pesebre with a K. I moved here actually fairly recently into Lansing 3 weeks ago. And I want to take note that what had happened at the Avenue actually happened during my first week here in Lansing. So that was generally part of my first impression here. So since then, every time I go out, my partners who are also queer and trans have expressed to me in their own ways that they're worried for my safety, that they want to make sure that I'm safe, and they're very aware that this has happened and they don't want me to get hurt, whether I'm going out alone or with friends. I do want to reiterate what other people have said, that prevention is a lot better than reaction, and that you don't want to have to react to all of these friends and people that are around me getting hurt. It'd be much better for you to take measures, take matters into your own hands to make sure that we aren't hurt. And a great way to start, of course, was to make a statement, issue a public statement to make sure that you reaffirm that we are safe here, that this is a place where people like us, whether we're queer, whether we're people of color, that we are safe here. And not only that, but I would also like to note that if you are to make a statement, I would also like actions to follow those words, because actions speak louder than words, of course. And not just that, but one last thing is that fascists and people who intend to hurt your citizens, people who intend to hurt us, are being more and more empowered with each day, as I'm sure you're all aware. These people intend to hurt us and make us feel scared. We don't want to feel scared. We want to feel safe and we want to feel secure. And I would really sincerely hope that you all take measures and do what you can to make sure that you stand with us and make sure that we are safe. Thank you for your time.
Looking back here to the back row.
Hello, my name is Matthew Frink. I'm not here to speak as a member of the LGBTQI community. I'm barely here to speak as a member of Lansing, having only just moved here to attend college at MSU. I was told great things by great people about what this place was like. I'm not speaking as a community member. I'm here speaking as a man that's seen a pattern of apathy, silence, and failure. Every second you don't speak is a second that fuels the people who yearn for these acts of hate. Every threat made that goes unanswered is encouragement. As you sit here and do nothing, people are unsafe. I've seen you all look down when begged to look around by the people that have spoken before me. Far greater, far more eloquent people have said in far better words, you cannot just make a statement. You have to do something. The promises made here, the requests demanded here matter. They are the right steps forward. Creating a community, creating a board that can speak for that community. I have a very good friend of mine who came here for college and has found this community. And they've thrived, and I thought it was because the community here was so well supported, but I've learned it's in spite of what's been given to this community. I apologize for my lack of a put together speech. I was not planning to speak initially, but when I saw the people before me speak, I felt I couldn't just sit. Action needs to be taken because apathy is a fascist's best friend, and your apathy has spoken a lot more than the things you have said. I urge you to release a statement, and I urge you to take the words of the people around me to heart. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Tris Aaron. I'm an MSU student and a trans woman. And back when the MSU shooting happened a while ago, is about a block or two away from my dorm hall. Kind of around the same time, there was a mass shooting in an outlet mall in Texas that my family visited a lot. These kinds of mass violence attacks have haunted the corners of my life. They shouldn't haunt the corners of anyone else's. With the threats made at the Avenue, frankly, they've scared the shit out of me. I haven't been back to the Avenue since I heard about them, and I really do want to. I love the Avenue. I think it's really important in this time, especially as our country continues to have these mass violence events, for the city to put out a public statement in support of the LGBTQ plus community and in condemnation of mass violence. None of us should keep going through these horrible events. Furthermore, I support the statements of the Lansing advocates for trans safety, especially for their call for this city to become a sanctuary city and their call for support for local queer businesses. Such an action would only continue to enrich the city. As for why the trepidation about the police, beyond the long-running history, beyond the fears of surveillance, I woke up this morning to read the news that Chief Police Jen Brown had made some very racist and insensitive comments that they are receiving a lot of criticism for. Incidents like that damage public trust in the police as an institution. They damage my trust in the police as an institution. I think that the police are not the way to go to deal with this issue until some serious reform is done within the police. So that's what I have to say.
Hello, my name is Mercury Rose. My pronouns are they, them.
I have kind of two things I want to speak about. So one, like speaking to City Council, thank you for holding this time and space today. I really support what the advocates group is asking for, and I'd really like to see tangible outcomes. I serve on the board for A Place for Us, and we'd love to work with the city. We're like looking for funding, we're looking for space. So connect with us. Like, let's make it happen. Let's create more queer safe spaces, queer and trans safe spaces. And I think like there's a limit to how much y'all are going to be able to do. I'd like to see the tangible things you could do. Like, let's do something different. Let's not just respond after the violence has happened. And this is a pattern in our city, right? Like, so there's the threat that was made at the Ave, but like last year, I remember standing outside of, Ruby's and Strange Matter when the First Amenders were out there like harassing people with their cameras and open carrying and making threat to people's like safety while they were accessing those businesses that are like queer affirming. So there's a pattern here, and I would really like to see some action. And it's more than just that. So I want to speak to like the audience and everybody that's sitting behind me, because I think we make each other safe. That's how I think you're going to make us safe, is that you're going to be with me in this. You're going to be like a fellow citizen. You're going to be my neighbor. You're going to care about my safety. And I think everybody sitting behind me, we have to do that for each other too, right? Safety is more than just the absence of violence. Safety is my access to healthcare, my access to safe transportation and safe housing and community, and feeling like a sense of belonging in the place that I live. And we make that together. You as humans make that with me, and everyone sitting behind me makes that together. We make it. On that note, for folks that would like to sit at a table together, and especially to all of the queer and trans folks and advocates behind me, join me at the library in the basement downtown, just down the street. Right after this meeting, I've got a space reserved from 6 to 8, and folks who are hoping to hold some community discussion, because we keep each other safe, and come like scheme and dream with us, because I think there's a lot more that we can do that's about safety than preventing violence, but coming together and having power together. Thank you.
Hi. Oh, Hi, my name's Ari. Been a resident for over 14 years. I didn't plan on speaking today, but I just thought that the asks of the people around me in this room are so important that I just wanted to echo that the only reason that fascism has spread so far is because it is not thoroughly opposed. And so the things we are asking for, a public statement against the things that have happened, and a way for us to actually have a way to interface with the city about how to prevent these things in ways that are not the police, because many people, in my experience, prey on the fact that the police cannot be there immediately, aside from the fact that most people don't want them anyway, as far as our community is concerned. But alongside that, I also want to ask why your colleagues aren't here. I am extremely grateful that all of you who have showed up. But I also want to vocalize, I wonder how many of the obstacles that may be presenting in your mind as we propose our ideas are only real obstacles because more of your colleagues do not care about what is going on, do not care enough to be here today, do not care enough to send statement or any other activity other than just let y'all be here for them as a representative for the city as a whole. I think it is wonderful that you all care, but I wish more of the city did. And I think y'all have the fastest and easiest way to interface with them and change their opinion and show them why we care, why it affects us, and how deeply it will damage us for them to continue to not care. And I think acting on your ability to speak to your colleagues on a regular basis is as important as all of the other things we are asking you for today. Thank you.
Councilperson Spataford.
I want to just clear something up real quick. The the council can't gather in a space and discuss city business without posting it as an official meeting. So I don't want to dismiss your concerns, but I want you to know that the city council cannot all be here without it being a city council meeting formally. So I don't want you to take their absence as apathy. This is the DEI committee. The three of us are assigned on. In fact, two of us can't meet and discuss business as members of the committee without posting it as a meeting as well. So I did see President Cost in the back. I think he's in his office now, probably watching online. So I don't want to dismiss your feelings. I just want to let you know that we can't have everyone in this room without posting it as an official city council meeting.
Thank you for that. And I know Councilperson Spatafor let me know before the meeting that he has a prior engagement sometime before, I think he said 5:45, but don't quote me on that. I just know that you did let me know that, so. And Councilwoman Carter, she came in, but she didn't hear that she's marked on time and that she let us know that she was late too. And I would echo, about people not necessarily being here because I think people do care. And this is, I think, the first step. Well, I guess the first step was you all organizing and coming together. But before we speak, there's a few more people that may want to speak. I see people over there. So now it's two people over there. I'm going to let it happen, but hopefully it's not like 3 for, because I know we want to make some comments and I want to comment on a couple of these as well. So in the back, thank you.
Hi, my name is Isadora Mitchell, they, them. I spoke last week. I actually wasn't planning on speaking today, but after listening today, I realized there's some things that I need to say further. One, I want to just second everything that's been said here by my community members. That those are some of the first steps that need to be taken. Secondly, is I just want to bring up specific comments that I heard and I've been informed of by past coworkers that happened on the 7th floor in public service, because I believe these show an internal issue that is going on, that like none of this can happen if you do not start actually having your employees who do not live here, people who do not live here, they don't see us. They don't see us as human beings. They see people who ride the bus as that there's something wrong with them for being poor enough to have to take public transportation. That's wrong. Those are your residents, the people who are not your residents, who are your employees, are saying about. They also say that they'll see a homeless person come up and asking them for money, but then they'll have a big coffee in their hand and a phone in another. So how dare they ask for money because they clearly can afford those things. When you don't know where that coffee came from, that thing might be the thing that's getting that person through that day. And the other thing too is the fact that we need phones in this day and age in order to survive. So the fact that you have employees saying that about the people that they're supposed to be serving is disgusting. And not to mention it, that you have, I understand that ICE is a government program and stuff, but if you look at anything going on, then you know that there are families being ripped apart right now and things are disgusting. It is a rise of fascism. And you have employees that are saying that these people are just doing their jobs. I need you to understand that those are the people that you have a internal issue that you need to address, and that you actually need to have your employees come and speak to us. They don't know us. They don't see us. They don't see us as human beings. We are just something to check off and to get over. And I just think it's really important for you to understand that, like, there needs to be some internal thing where, like, there's education where people are listening to the actual people. Like, I don't want to see a cis-het person talking to the city employees about trans rights and queer rights when that's not their lived experience. It shouldn't be our responsibility to educate you guys, but at the end of the day, we are the most educated on these topics, so we should. And so I don't have a direct answer for that, but something needs to happen where internally there are steps being taken where your employees actually like work alongside with and actually see the people that they are supposed to be serving. Thank you.
I think I have 1 plus 2 more people. maybe more, but I know I want to give a chance for councilperson to speak as well and try to address some of these concerns and deliberate, if you will. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ro, they, them. I'm set to perform at the Avenue on Saturday and use my freedom of speech to do so. And I've never had more stage fright in my entire life, despite performing for 15 years, doing drag, burlesque, performance art. The First Amendment does not feel equally applied to everyone. Some people have more freedom to speak than others, and some of those people have used their free speech to threaten the trans community, and by doing so, it limits the free speech of trans people. We have laws against hate speech, but laws that are not enforced fail to be laws. The reason why we have laws against hate speech is because hate speech is terrorism. An act of terrorism has been committed in Lansing. One man's words have terrified the queer and trans people of this entire city. Terrorism doesn't start with the gun, it starts with the words. A balloon popped at the Avenue the other day, and the people there thought that they were about to be the next Pulse massacre. And it got me wondering that if that gunman had given warning that he was coming, would anyone have taken steps to prevent it? Or would it also be met with a shrug? And I want to remind everyone that ally is not a noun, it's a verb. It requires action, and reaction is almost always too late. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Briggs. I'm a resident of the east side of Lansing. I'm also the pastor at Edgewood UCC. I really use he, him pronouns, and I really hope you don't let a cis straight white guy be the last one to talk to you. Again, I did not plan on speaking. I came here to be educated and to learn. But I also realized that in my being here the past year as a relatively new pastor, my learning also has something to offer to this conversation. So both in my role as a pastor and in my role in disaster response in other contexts, I've served in multiple municipalities where, of course, we've been responding to people that are in need. And generally, my hope and understanding is that municipalities are the primary place that helps people, and then nonprofit, faith-based groups and things like that offer supplementary help. But in my time here, I have struggled to find the ways in which the municipalities have been the primary places to be giving that need. I am very grateful to Morgan, who was one of the first speakers here, to remind us that violence truly starts with the lack of affordable housing, the lack of social safety nets, and things like that. I also want to lift up again the Salas Center, because that has been the place that has helped me identify where I can send my queer and trans members and other people that I'm aiding to find help that will not discriminate against them. So I want to encourage all of the things that have been lifted up about funding queer businesses and helping them, but also I want to lift up the fact that in many other places that I've found, the municipalities have found ways so that the money that goes to helping the underhoused, the people that are looking for work, primarily go to places that are committed to not discriminate against anyone based on race, class, gender, sexual orientation, or anything else. And so I'm speaking as a person of faith, and I'm aware that that does not seem to be how it functions here in Lansing, that many faith-based groups are actively discriminating against people. I think that is unjust. I think that is unfair. And I think that it falls to this municipality and every municipality to find ways not just to give money to queer businesses, but to make sure that the money that is being spent now is going to people that are committed to not discriminate against anyone. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna. I have been in Lansing for 12 years. I'm originally from Romeo, which is a small conservative town north of Detroit, where I was never even taught that trans people existed. Moving to Lansing and being allowed to explore my own queerness and meet and love the most beautiful community and its members has literally been life-saving. The least I can do for this community is use my privilege to restate what your trans constituents already have. The greatest struggles I've witnessed my trans friends and community members struggle with is access to safe and affordable housing and the dwindling number of queer spaces. As landlords buy up more and more blocks of our neighborhoods, they bring their personal biases into their renting practices. Action from the city to ensure non-discrimination in renting, or ideally keeping housing available, affordable, and in the hands of residents so that marginalized folks who traditionally experience more poverty and barriers to economic growth are able to gain power and safety through ownership. In regards to queer spaces, I want to reiterate that space like the Salas Center are doing more for this community than the city ever has. Small queer businesses struggle as the economy suffers, and the threats they suffer put both economic strain on them, as well as having deeply negative effects on their staff and customers. The city and the police force have done exactly as they were designed to do, nothing. Without loud and active advocacy within the government itself, that government body is useless. If threats to this community are not treated as promises, they will become so. If and when violent acts occur against the queer community, I want every member of this government to look in the mirror and know silence was complicity. If the city will not protect us, we will protect ourselves. But with your help, the community, and through that community, the city at large, the capital city, we set a standard for the state. The city at large can become something stronger, safer, and ultimately we will keep fighting until this is achieved.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that the last two hands be the last two hands. So, okay, the last three hands be the last three hands.
Hi, Christopher Hehem. Just thinking about so many great things being uplifted here. And one of the ways that the city allocates resources and provides data, I'm kind of a nerd. And so I was thinking about how the city of Lansing does publish information on bias crimes that have occurred inside the city of Lansing. And as long as we've been tracking since 2017, we have not had a single example of anti-trans bias crime occurring. Now, looking around, that does not feel true. It does not feel true in my own life, but somehow that is what we have publicly said on our website. There have been anti-gay, there's been anti-law enforcement, like there's a lot of bias tracking. And so I don't know, something that you might consider, are we providing resources to the people in the city so that they can properly track that? Is there a reason that's not getting to the police? Who can facilitate that? Sorry, WLNS. But that's the thing that I think of whenever I look at our public data, is that that what feels true for me sometimes isn't reflected in our statistics that are being collected by the police and posted on our website. So thank you for your time.
Good evening, everybody, or afternoon, whatever time it is now. My name is Jasper. I'm a community member. I've been involved with the community quite heavily for the last 14, 15 years of my life. I've lived in Lansing since I was 4. I've potentially served some of you. I work at Midtown, just downtown, and I'd love to see you there again. I'm here as an ally to this community. My brother is trans, my partner is trans, my friends, for the most part, majority of them are trans, LGBT in some sense or another. And through that, I have unique access to this kind of area of life. Let's kind of paint a picture here, right? I'm sure all of us know what it's like to wake up in America right now. You know, you wake up, you turn on the news, you flip on your phone, whatever. Something crazy is happening. Either some sort of terrorist incident has happened, such as just down the road from here in Grand Blanc, we've watched a church be blown up. Or in Chicago, we watched an entire apartment building be raided by ICE. And we watch kids be separated from their parents. The parents, no idea where their kids are at. This is quite horrific. And in the case of ICE, this is a state-sponsored terror crisis being artificially created to further the conditions that are making people feel unsafe. When people feel unsafe, they respond and they react. This is a terrible thing to have happen in our country because it is just creating a fear that is driving the people in this room. I'm sure it's driving you in your daily lives. This is what it's like to wake up in America right now. We have a unique precedent here, or at least we could set a unique precedent. Lansing can set a precedent that we're going to stand up in the face of the craziness, everything that's going on in the world. We can show that we love our trans brothers and sisters and siblings. But we can also take those actions to take a step in front of, the reaction and dive into preventing things happening to begin with in the first place. Echoing the council, having an LGBT council to sit down with would be important. Standing up against that would be important as well through a public comment. But one thing I want to touch on real quick is what happens when we do react, or when something is missed. In the case of the Avenue incident, the police were involved. The police report was made. Some of my friends filled out a report and had spoke to the police. However, after the city council meeting, we had 2 other officers approach the Avenue that evening and open up a separate case, separate investigation. And what this kind of told me is that this was not taken seriously the first time. Why was a terror incident reported and not taken seriously until we brought it to the attention of the city council? How does that open up the room for anyone in this room feel safe to come to the police? If we call the police and we file a report and nothing is done, unless we risk our lives and put our lives on the line here, what are we going to do differently? That's why these preventative measures are so important. But we also really need to take a step and say, if we are going to rely on forces like the police, they need to actually help the people here. It cannot just be used to serve as a Band-Aid. Thank you. That's my time.
Thank you. Last person, and then we have Representative Diebendorf as the last. Well, yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Frank Heverin. I use he, him pronouns. I am the program director at the Salas Center. We offer support groups to a lot of areas of our community. We offer health resources, hygiene products, all sorts of things like that for 2S LGBTQIA+ people in Lansing. We are, of course, thinking about safety a lot right now. I want to echo what folks have said about the sanctuary city asks. I think that it is very important for them to have concrete resolutions about how the city won't comply with the federal government's unprecedented targeting of trans people right now. There are a lot of things that are coming down and have come down that are very shocking, and I think the city stating that they won't comply is very important. We cannot predict random acts of violence, but we can offer the supports that help to prevent violence and offer care to the community if something is to happen. Hopefully nothing ever will, but I think having those community measures in place. I think that the ways that we can prevent violence are funding housing, which is a major issue here in Lansing, as many people have said, social services, and folks that are doing community building. So I think that includes the Salas Center. I think it includes a place for us. It includes the targeted businesses that have been targeted by all of this harassment. I think that funding, especially to increase capacity for all these folks to take preventative safety measures, because I do think that we keep each other safe and that building community supports around us is what does that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I have Representative Diebendorf, Councilperson Spafford, do you want to say anything before you have to get out of here?
I can hang on a bit longer. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Diebendorf.
Hey, everybody, thank you. I am slow to put my hand up. And I came from home. So I'm here to speak not because I'm our non-binary legislator in the State House, but because this is my community. And it would be irresponsible of me to not speak and not offer collaboration. Because as many of you know, much of my whole career has been focused on LGBT and trans rights, but specifically in response to bias crimes,
bias incidents, and hate crimes. That means I've been to too many funerals. It means I've been a part of too many murder investigations. It is part of why I ran for office at the state level in the first place, because the rise in extremism is documented and has been increasing. We know that hate crimes are different from other crimes, that bias incidents are different, that people call it terrorism, as I've heard, because when you commit violence or make threats based on who a person is, a person's being, a category that they fall into, you're not just making that threat against that one person. You're making that threat against a whole community, because that hate isn't confined to the one person and the personal reasons that you know them. There's a passion behind it that applies to a whole community. We also know that throughout the last few years, we went from people making threats in their mother's basement on the computer to it taking less red flags before somebody takes those threats and turns it into real action. Whether it's them or somebody else, people are more likely to take action. That's why we take hate speech seriously, because hate speech doesn't always, but can certainly turn into real violence and harassment. There isn't the opportunity right now to protect our trans, non-binary, larger LGBT communities, and really so many of our underrepresented, underserved communities, because the state and federal government, I'm telling you right now, they're not going to do it. So much of our power to protect our communities right now and our neighbors is in our local government and the protections that can be provided. So I want to offer what I have spent so much of my career doing, to connect you with the Attorney General's office, to connect you with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, to make sure this is being examined for the presence of bias, because it makes a difference in how we respond to it. I have written curriculums and protocols for how schools can respond to bias and hate incidents, both before, for prevention, during, and the response afterwards to heal a community. But the folks in this room today, the folks who experience this, are the ones who can advise the most and the best on what we need to feel safe. So my ask is that with this incident, with this situation at the Avenue, and with any situation, that we take it seriously and we ask that our law enforcement be further trained on how to recognize bias. Because one of the things we also know is that if you don't know how to recognize bias, and we haven't defined for folks what bias is, that you don't see it and you certainly don't follow through on it. And it might not even be something that is consciously being controlled by the person that actually has the power to take action against something. So training for our law enforcement, connections with the AG, connections with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. And I asked for this years ago, but I would love for us to form a rapid response task force on bias incidents. Again, the state and federal government will not do this. They're not going to take this seriously. In fact, if it were up to them, we wouldn't recognize that we had underrepresented communities in the first place. So please consider a broader effort to make sure that the community is mobilizing and coordinating, but also that we are going through the extra steps it takes to identify bias and to respond accordingly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I commend you all. It takes a lot of courage to come up and share your life, really. And I want to help. I probably speak for my colleagues, and I won't though, but I think we want to help. I think, and we'll discuss this, that we'll have to, because we can pass a city council resolution as our way of speaking as a council. The mayor, their office, they can do a proclamation, but like many people said, we want it to like mean something, even though it does sound like it is a necessary first step. So before I turn it over to my colleagues, because I want to say some more after them, but I'll ask that we because we have to pass it in a committee, or we can do it at the committee of the whole to make it quicker, to do like a resolution.
The one thing I was going to ask, Mr. Chair, and I agree, of committee with public comment is not the most conducive environment for discussion. Is the Lansing Advocates for Trans Safety, is there a leadership structure that one of us could meet with to discuss sort of the hopes and dreams of the composition of a statement, resolution, and also of an advisory board? Okay. Because as I said, it's hard for us to get together without making it an actual meeting. So, Mr. Chair, whether it's you or one of us that would meet with leadership, I think that would be an important next step to get the ball rolling. So it's not just us producing a product that is not something that is exactly what you're looking to see. I'm not going to say the thing that passes would be exactly what you're looking to see, but I want to start with a product that's supported by the advocates that showed up here tonight. And I echo the chair's comments about bravery and thankfulness for you being in this space, for being in this room and sharing your stories, sharing ideas. And I really want to thank each of you and the group for showing up with ideas and solutions. It's not on you to do that necessarily, but I do appreciate that you came with us with a list of things that we could potentially take action on. And that's, I think, important. Sometimes local government, we hear a lot of public comment, but not really. We search for answers, and hearing solutions from an advocate that comes to the podium that are actual tangible and actionable items is important to someone like myself. And I think everyone, again, won't speak for the folks to my left, but I do think that's important. And so I would suggest that if you could leave your contact information, that would be something we could do. And then we can work through this committee, or as the chair suggested, maybe through the committee of the whole and with the mayor's office on some of the more tangible and realistic suggestions and requests.
I will echo the same sentiments from our council here, our chair and council member Spatafor. I appreciate all of you in your comments today and those from that spoke on Monday. It does not fall on deaf ears from my perspective. And again, I can't speak on behalf of the collective council body, but I can confidently say that this is definitely something that has been an issue for over several years. And so I would also like to speak to a representative in a more structured setting so that we could really iron out some of the verbiage within the resolution. But I also would like to make those collaborative efforts. I know Representative Devendorf has mentioned some contacts. And so I would love to have those conversations in a more intimate setting and bring those subject matter experts forward so that we can collectively be educated at all levels of our government. And so I honed in on a few different things, but I would also like to work with our administrative office, the training. I know there's been conversation regarding internal training, but also training for our Lansing Police Department as well. Wanted to look into some more information regarding that, an advisory board as well. That was something that I took some interest in. And again, providing those resources, those necessary resources for, I know we mentioned the Salas Center and then the Lansing Advocates, but I definitely think that it is a need to look at what other resources we can potentially look into, even whether it's from the collective body, the administrative office, HRCS, whatever that looks like. I'm here to be open to those conversations and look to have a plan in action and not just be a resolution or a proclamation, but how we're going to cascade this longevity and sustainability within our city of Lansing. So again, thank you for everyone that took the time to speak. And again, this is not going to be a box that we just check off, but looking forward to have some concrete roots into the ground regarding the safety of all of our residents here at Lansing. So thank you.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Spatafor, I just know you got to go, and I do have some things still to say. So, one of the things is that I feel comfortable from what I heard being able to draft a resolution, but the question is, yes, I want to share it and make sure it's all good. But I mean, again, like I said, I hear you loud and clear. I feel like we can draft a resolution, share it, but when will we pass it? Will we pass it in another committee meeting where we can collaborate some more and make sure everything is appropriate? Or do we do that at a committee of the whole to have it out there quicker and not, a few more meetings down the road? I'm open to both of those. I would say, Sherry, if people are comfortable meeting in 2 weeks, possibly to iron it out, I'll ask you, think about that. We'll get to it in a second because we have some options. Do we want this sooner or do we want this with a little bit later with how we want it? Something to think about. Other things that caught my mind during this is, okay, so the goal is safety. Everybody wants to feel safe, and I agree. Everybody should feel safe, especially a whole group of people. But does making a sanctuary city make us safer or not? Because we know the rhetoric from the federal government and the different attention, names bring or designations bring. I'm not afraid to do that, but I just want to make sure that is what we want. Because, for example, with the first sanctuary cities with migrants, it was a list, and that got different attention. I don't know if people come in from outside that don't like that designation, or if it's just federal government and their threats with money. Just something to think about. But that was what we can talk about next time, possibly. The shelter issues, I've heard that they are there, and it is a problem. Not to take from that problem, but there are other communities too, just homeless people in general that are unhoused. But I can understand and imagine how that problem is exasperated and even more acute. So I'm glad to hear that there is a place for us, and I would like to see how the city could support it. Budgets happen, but priorities still exist where it does. I mean, there's the HRCS and the different boards that give money to organizations. Just a thought. Somebody asked about the perpetrator, and again, I don't know what you do to get that, but it would be a FOIA request. And what they will say is that it's an ongoing investigation. If it is an ongoing investigation, then they won't give you the information, or they'll give you the information, they'll take all of the identifying name and stuff out. But it would probably be a FOIA request, or if we had our police chief here or a representative, they would be happy to answer it. Maybe we want them at the next meeting. Okay, all right. Because one thing that I don't know, you all tell me, that I would like to think is true, is that everybody's people, everybody has different opinions. Sometimes the presence of police in a situation where there's violence potential could make some people feel safe. Now, it might not be popular. It's just a complete no. I see your hands up.
In my experience, a lot of the people who are in the current Lansing City Police have biases against my identity. And thus, I think if there was some kind of presence, I would not feel safe.
I see other hands, and is there a different opinion besides that for now? Go ahead. Okay. Thank you. So the general sentiment, because they can't hear you no one can hear you on the recording, that's necessary, but is that people don't feel safe because the police, at least LPD, doesn't respect your identity and have a bias. So right now, I'm gonna accept that as true. I see other hands, but I do want to move on a little bit.
Can I just wanted, you mentioned the investigation, and I did talk with the chief this afternoon, and he did indicate that the case was closed and that there is a police report available if someone wants to request it. I don't have it, I haven't seen it, but that was information that was shared with me today. It's all I have from the chief, but you mentioned it, so I want to make sure you got that on the record.
Thank you. My thoughts on the board, I would be open to supporting that. My question would be is, what about occupying existing boards like the EDI advisory board that, you know, takes applicants and people? Yes, it requires the mayor's office to say, this is who we're nominating, but then it takes council to say, yes, there's openings on those. There's openings on the police board commission. Would it be advantageous to have people on those boards and or have a separate board? Because I mean, it sounds like there would be people to fill the boards, but at the same time, there's always vacancies on some of these other boards that would help people. I see some hands. What I'm going to end up doing is finishing out. I don't know, because we got our staff here, we got our TV here, and this is a big conversation. Are we comfortable with committee? What do we want to do? Do we want to do 2 weeks?
Mr. Chair, I want to highlight, we meet as a city council Monday, the 13th, and then Monday, the 27th are our next two meetings. I think, given the topic and the interests, the committee as a whole might be a good space to have this conversation. And I do think it's worth meeting with leadership of Lansing Advocates for Trans Safety to discuss, you know, what kind of actions might be possible and feasible in that 2 weeks period of time, allowing us to work with the city attorney's office to draft things that meet our forms and all that stuff. We're very bureaucratic here. I'm sorry about that. Like that's where we are. But I think that committee of the whole meeting would allow a broader audience of the city council. It would allow it's televised and more widely consumed by members of the public. And I think that would be an important place to have this these actions take place. Now, as I mentioned, dialogue in those settings is not ideal. So I think sitting down and talking with the advocacy group is important on a one-on-one basis. And I know I'm interested in doing so. Representative Council Member Carter is interested in doing so, and I know you've expressed interest. So I'd be open to that. And I think that 27th, while seemingly far away, is the next target for a council action. And that would be my suggestion is I've heard a lot of thoughtful input, and I think we should take it and use it to craft our next steps.
I appreciate that. I still would like to have action, and I heard what the Lansing Advocates for Trans Safety demanded. They demanded a statement that comes from us, and they demanded an advisory board and funding and support for queer businesses. Those were the top three. So if we meet with them, I have a feeling that's what it's going to be surrounding. So I'm comfortable with putting a resolution forward for the next city council meeting where you guys will all be able to see it on the agenda ahead of time. And then when we come and discuss it, you can say, we like this or we don't like this, and then we'll vote on it for that one. And if it doesn't pass or it needs to be tabled because it needs some work or there's some things that are missing, we'll then have it for the next meeting with the revisions in it. So we can just go straight through. And we do want to meet separately or together, moving that forward. Councilperson Carter.
Thank you, Chair Jackson. Just one point of clarification. So are we looking to bring this forward on the dais on October 13th? I'm just looking at time constraint. I don't want this to be rushed. I don't want it to be minimized either. And so I just want to make sure I get a point of contact or point of clarification. Are we looking to bring this to the council body on the 13th or meet with those advocacy groups, put fine tune those 3 requests and then bring it forward to the body on the 27th?
I'm looking to bring the first draft that may end up being a final draft forward on the 13th and seeing if it has support or not. And if it doesn't have support, I want to adjust it and amend it for the following one meeting. And I still want to meet in between to make sure we hit the points. But I feel like, because our resolution, again, it's not a legal binding thing, even though we wish it was. It is a just statement of support or how we speak as a council. It doesn't bind our finances, our police force, or any specific action, but it is an intention to support and act. So I think we can do it. And I just don't want to push this out or anything, because we got to get all the other steps, we got to at least get this first step, and it'll keep the conversation going. I still would like to hear about we're not deciding if it's going to be a sanctuary city on this next one. This is going to be a statement in support of safety and anti-hate. So we can talk about you guys can come at public comment with sanctuary city and stuff, and then we can decide if we need another committee meeting or not. No, I'll draft the first draft and I'll reach out, and then I'll reach out to law too. Correct. Committee of the whole, and it can be on council if it passes out of committee of the whole. Okay, just to respect the time here, and again, the conversation needs to continue, and it will continue on the 13th, committee of the whole, and possibly more, but again, we'll at least take those first steps, I think. Anything from our committee? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.